Welcome to Deep Tech Dharma, an autonomy thesis. Every 20 minutes, the bacteria living on the surfaces of your local hospital mutate.
Yeah, it's constantly happening.
Right. They are constantly running this quiet, invisible evolutionary arms race against modern medicine. And, well, according to the source dossier we're unpacking today, they're winning.
They really are.
By 2050, drug-resistant superbugs are projected to kill roughly 10 million people a year, which, just to put that into perspective for you, that actually surpasses the global death toll from cancer.
That's a staggering number.
It is. So today we're taking a deep dive into this unfolding crisis, and we're focusing on a tiny Bengaluru-based deep tech startup called Bugworks. Our mission today is to figure out exactly how this small team of outsiders is trying to, save the very foundation of modern medicine.
And how their success could completely upend global pharmaceutical dependencies.
Right, exactly.
Because the stakes here, they genuinely feel apocalyptic when you look closely at the data. I mean, we've spent the last century operating on this very simple assumption.
Assumption of the pill.
Right. If you scrape your knee or if an infection sets in after routine surgery, you just take a pill,
Yeah.
and the pill handles it. We expect the infection to lose.
We don't even think about it.
No, we don't. But if that assumption fails, everything built on top of it just collapses.
Wow.
Routine surgeries suddenly become these life-threatening gambles. Organ transplants become, well, nearly impossible. And cancer patients, whose immune systems are wiped out by chemotherapy.
They have no defense.
Exactly. They would have absolutely no defense against everyday bacteria. The entire safety net of modern healthcare relies entirely on our ability to control infection.
Which sets a pretty terrifying baseline. And it forces a glaring question for me. If the foundation of modern medicine is actively cracking, why isn't the entire world racing to reinforce it?
You'd think they would be.
Right. Like, why aren't the wealthiest pharmaceutical giants just throwing billions of dollars at discovering new antibiotics?
Well, the sources point to a massive structural failure here. And it's not a failure of science, actually. It's a failure of the market.
A market failure.
Yeah. The traditional commercial pharmaceutical industry has effectively abandoned antibiotics. I mean, the last genuinely new class of antibiotics was discovered about 60 years ago.
Hold on. 60 years?
Yep.
We carry supercomputers in our pockets, we're landing reusable rockets, but we haven't invented a new class of antibiotics since the 1960s.
The timeline is totally staggering, but the reason is purely economic. Antibiotics represent a notoriously terrible business model for a publicly traded company.
How so?
Just consider how we use them compared to other medications. If a patient is prescribed, say, a blood pressure drug or a cholesterol reducer, they might take that pill every single day for the next 30 years.
Right, that guarantees a steady, massive revenue stream for the company.
Exactly. But if you get a bacterial infection, you take a course of antibiotics for, maybe a week, you're cured, and you stop taking it.
So it's a volume game. And antibiotics just cure people way too quickly to be highly profitable.
It goes even deeper than that, actually.
Yeah.
Because of how rapidly bacteria mutate, that 20-minute cycle you mentioned earlier, the medical community has a strict protocol for any powerful new antibiotic.
They don't just hand it out.
No, they don't. If a company manages to invent a brand new, highly effective drug, doctors won't prescribe it for a standard ear infection. They deliberately lock it away in reserve.
To keep the bacteria from learning how to beat it.
Right. They keep it as an absolute last resort to ensure bacteria are rarely exposed to it, which delays the inevitable resistance.
It's like a company spending $1 billion to build the world's greatest fire extinguisher, only for the fire department to lock it in a glass case and just pray they never have to use it.
That's a perfect way to put it.
No rational company wants to build a product designed specifically not to be sold.
The incentives are completely inverted. The greater the medical need for a novel antibiotic, the smaller the commercial reward for the company that develops it.
That is so wild.
Yeah, the traditional capitalist market simply cannot solve this problem, because the drugs we desperately need for human survival are the exact ones that destroy a pharmaceutical balance sheet.
So since the traditional pharmaceutical giants basically walked away from this unprofitable fire extinguisher, we have to look at who is actually trying to build it.
Right, the outsiders.
Yeah, this brings us to Bugworks Research. Founded in 2014 out of Bengaluru, India. The team is led by CEO Dr. Anand Kumar, along with co-founders Santanu Datta, V. Balasubramanian, and Shahul Hamid.
And their backgrounds are what make their approach so unconventional. Dr. Anand Kumar, for instance, He didn't spend his career inside a traditional big pharma drug discovery lab.
He's an engineer, right?
Yeah, he's an engineer and a tech entrepreneur. He started in the semiconductor world, moved into tech, and then he built a computational biology company focused on cancer.
So he's used to looking at vast amounts of data.
Exactly, data and systemic inefficiencies.
But going from microchips to computational cancer biology and then pivoting into infectious diseases, that is a massive leap.
It is. But he realized something profound during that transition. While massive amounts of venture capital and innovation were flowing into oncology and cardiovascular diseases, infection was just completely neglected.
Even though it's so deadly.
Right. Infection kills more people in India than any other disease. He saw this massive blind spot that traditional medicine was just ignoring.
I want to stop there for a second and genuinely ask about something that has been confusing me in these sources.
Sure.
India is universally known as the pharmacy of the world, right? They manufacture a huge percentage of the globe's medicines.
They do.
So if they have all of this immense manufacturing infrastructure and biological expertise, why did it take a semiconductor engineer to point out that they needed their own backup drugs? Like, why hasn't the pharmacy of the world been innovating new antibiotics this whole time?
That is the core of what global health experts call India's superbug bind. It really comes down to the difference between manufacturing and primary research.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, yes, India produces a massive volume of the world's medicine. But historically, they have operated as a manufacturer of cheap, generic copies.
Oh, I see.
They produce drugs that were discovered, designed, and patented decades ago in the West. They mastered the factory floor, but they never actually built the initial discovery engine.
So they have all the printing presses, but they haven't been writing any of the original stories.
Exactly. And that creates a terrifying vulnerability for the population. India is the world's largest consumer of antibiotics.
Because of the heavy usage?
Right, often without strict prescription controls. And because of that, it has become one of the global epicenters for antimicrobial resistance, or AMR.
Wow.
You have a nation facing the absolute worst of the superbug crisis, relying entirely on a Western drug discovery pipeline that, like we said, stopped producing new antibiotics 60 years ago.
That is terrifying.
Facing a mortal crisis while relying on foreign entities who have stopped trying to solve it is arguably the most dangerous place a nation can be.
When the current generic drugs fail, there's no homegrown backup to save the patients in their own hospitals. They're just waiting for a rescue ship that was decommissioned in the 1960s.
That's the reality.
Well, that makes the motivation completely clear, but having the motivation to build a sovereign backup drug doesn't solve the brutal biological reality. I mean, how do they actually design a molecule that outsmarts a bug that mutates every 20 minutes?
This is where the tech and computational background of the founders becomes so critical. Bugworks developed a proprietary discovery platform called E13.
E13, okay.
Yeah, and using this computational modeling, they created a first-in-class antibiotic series they named GRAX. Their lead drug candidate, the one currently navigating human trials, is codenamed BWC0977.
The sources note this drug is specifically targeting escape pathogens. It's spelled like an acronym, but what exactly does that mean for the patient in the hospital bed?
The acronym stands for a specific group of highly virulent, multi-drug-resistant bacteria. Things like Enterococcus faecium, Staphylococcus aureus, Klebsiella pneumonia, and a few others.
The really bad ones.
The absolute worst. The medical community gave them that name because they essentially escape the biocidal action of traditional antibiotics.
They just dodge them.
Right. These are the bugs responsible for the vast majority of fatal hospital-acquired infections. They're the ones that simply shrug off our current strongest medicines.
So to beat something that escapes everything else, the sources detail this specific dual action mechanism inside BWC0977.
Yes, the dual action is key.
It's classified as a gyrase to polymerase inhibitor. I need you to break down exactly how that works mechanically, because the biological warfare happening here sounds fascinating.
It really is. Let's look at how bacteria reproduce. To multiply, a bacterium has to constantly unzip and replicate its DNA.
Okay, unzipping DNA.
Right. And if you imagine DNA as a tightly twisted rubber band, unzipping it creates massive mechanical tension. The bacterium uses specific enzymes, gyrase and topoisomerase like molecular scissors, to manage that tension.
To keep it from breaking.
Exactly. Cutting and repasting the DNA so it doesn't snap. Now, older antibiotics usually target just one of these enzymes.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, because bacteria mutate so fast, it is relatively easy for them to eventually stumble upon a genetic mutation that alters that single enzyme just enough that the antibiotic can no longer latch onto it.
They figure out the shape of the single lock and just change it.
Exactly.
Huh.
But Bugworks designed BWC0977 to attack both the gyrase and the topoisomerase simultaneously.
Both at once.
By inhibiting both of those essential tension-managing enzymes, the bacteria's DNA literally tangles and tears. And more importantly, the statistical probability of a bacterium developing a mutation to defend against both attacks at the exact same time is infinitesimally small.
It's like a nuclear launch sequence. You know, you can't trigger it by just hitting one button really hard. It requires turning two separate keys on opposite sides of the room at the exact same time. The bacteria just can't manage that coordinated defense.
That's exactly it. It neutralizes their primary evolutionary advantage. But these escape pathogens have another ancient, highly effective defense mechanism:
What's that?
efflux pumps.
Oh, I read about these. Even if the medicine gets inside the cell, the bacteria literally just spit it back out.
Right. These pumps are tiny molecular machines embedded in the bacterial cell wall. They originally evolved millions of years ago to help bacteria survive in toxic soil environments by pumping out natural poisons.
And now they use them on our drugs.
Today, they use those exact same pumps to sweep up our antibiotics and eject them before the drug can reach its target.
I just picture them as aggressive bouncers at a nightclub. Like, the medicine manages to get through the front door, but the bouncers immediately grab it by the collar and throw it right back out onto the street.
It's incredibly frustrating for drug designers.
So how does Bugworks get past the bouncers?
Through an intense application of global science, Bugworks relied on the work of a Japanese professor, Satoshi Murakami, who spent years mapping the exact crystal structure of these bacterial efflux pumps.
He mapped the bouncers.
He did, and by using computational biology to understand the precise three-dimensional shape of the pump's mouth, Bugworks could intentionally design their molecule to slip past it unrecognized.
Oh, wow.
It is molecular stealth technology. The bouncers don't even know the drug is in the room.
So they're hitting two targets at once and using stealth geometry to dodge the pumps. And they managed to develop this in both an intravenous and an oral formulation, which the sources highlight as incredibly rare.
It is very rare. Developing an oral pill that survives the human digestive tract and still maintains that stealth geometry is notoriously difficult.
Why does having both matter so much?
Having both forms is vital for hospital logistics. A patient fighting a severe infection can start on an IV drip in the intensive care unit. Once they stabilize, instead of staying in the hospital for another week taking up a critical bed, they can be sent home with a prescription of oral pills to finish the exact same treatment.
That clears up the science for me, but it brings up the massive elephant in the room, which is funding.
Ah, yes. The funding.
Developing a brand new drug from scratch, running the computational models, mapping the chemistry, and putting it into human bodies that takes hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes.
If traditional big pharma won't pay for it because it's a broken market with locked away fire extinguishers, how on earth is a small startup in Bengaluru surviving the brutal testing phase?
Well, we are seeing the rise of a completely different economic model here. It's called mission-driven funding. Global health nonprofits and sovereign funds are stepping in to act as proxy investors for humanity.
They aren't looking for a massive quarterly return then.
No, they are looking to prevent the collapse of modern healthcare. Bugworks actually became the first Asian company to win a major grant over $10 million from CRBX.
What is CRBX?
It's a massive global fund dedicated entirely to fighting antimicrobial resistance.
Okay, and they also partnered with ARDP, right? The Global Antibiotic Research and Development Partnership.
Yes, which was specifically established to fix this exact market failure. Alongside investors like the Wellcome Trust, UTech, and Lightrock India, the startup has raised nearly $43 million.
That is a serious war chest.
That funding is what allows them to actually run the clinical trials. BWC0977 is currently in Phase 1 human trials down in Australia.
This is where I have to admit some real anxiety reading through these sources. Drug discovery is famously brutal.
Very brutal.
Most candidates fail. And the sources are very transparent that Bugworks has already hit some bumps. They observed what they call unexpected effects in a couple of early healthy volunteers, which forced them to pause and recalibrate.
Yes, they had to pause.
When you hear about unexpected effects in human volunteers, it sounds alarming. Given the astronomical failure rate of drug discovery, isn't this an incredibly risky bet for these global health funds to be taking?
It is an immense risk, absolutely. Yeah. But we have to look at the mechanical purpose of clinical trials. Phase 1 trials are not designed to prove if the drug cures the disease.
They aren't.
No. They are designed by giving the compound to a small number of healthy volunteers, specifically to hunt for toxicity, to check how the liver processes it, and to meticulously find the maximum safe dosage.
Oh, I see.
Finding unexpected effects like an enzyme spike at this stage is the system working exactly as intended. It is the honest reckoning of science.
So they are mapping the human tolerance before they ever give it to a sick patient.
Precisely. BWC-0977 is a highly hopeful candidate with brilliant underlying science, but it's not yet a guaranteed cure. There are years of incredibly costly, larger-scale Phase 2 and Phase 3 trials ahead,
It's a marathon.
and many drugs fail during this marathon. But that high risk of failure is exactly why mission funding exists. Commercial investors look at the odds of a trial failure combined with a broken market, and they just walk away.
But mission funders stay.
Mission funders look at those same odds and realize that if they don't finance the attempt, humanity has absolutely zero chance of fighting back.
Let's project forward for a minute. Assume they navigate the trials. Assume they lock in the dosing. The stealth tech holds up against the superbugs in a clinical setting, and this mission-driven gamble actually pays off.
Okay, best case scenario.
Yeah. What does that victory look like for the ordinary patient in a hospital, and what does it mean for global power dynamics?
For the individual patient, it means the hospital remains a safe place to heal. The World Health Organization continually points out that a staggering share of intensive care deaths stem directly from hospital-acquired infections.
People survive complex open-heart surgery only to die from a superbug they caught from a ventilator.
Exactly. Access to a drug like BWC-0977 means a mother surviving a difficult childbirth doesn't succumb to a secondary infection. It means a cancer patient can undergo aggressive chemotherapy, have their immune system safely suppressed, and recover without an opportunistic bacterium ending their life.
It preserves the safety net of routine medical care. It's the difference between going to a hospital to get better and going to a hospital and catching something incurable.
That's exactly what's at stake.
What about the macro level? Because the founders have been very vocal about their refusal to just sell this off to Big Pharma.
Their intention to launch in India and keep the drug affordable fundamentally shifts global health security. If Bugworks succeeds, it proves that India can transform from a dependent manufacturer of generic off-patent pills into a sovereign creator of life-saving, first-in-class science.
That's a huge shift.
Huge. They wouldn't be waiting for the West to hand down a solution to the AMR crisis. They would be inventing the solution and exporting it to the rest of the world. It completely alters international health dependencies.
Let's pull all of this together and run the final autonomy ledger from the sources.
Fire.
The dependency being broken here is the world's reliance on a stalled, commercially driven antibiotic pipeline that basically gave up on us in the 1960s.
Spot on.
And the sovereign capability being built is a homegrown, computationally designed antibiotic that bypasses the bouncers, turns both nuclear keys, and beats the superbugs nothing else can touch, all while being kept accessible by the outsiders who built it.
It is a truly remarkable undertaking, and it leaves us with a lingering, provocative question to consider.
What's that?
For 60 years, the traditional market stopped inventing antibiotics because there was no profit in saving lives this way. The economic incentives of capitalism were completely misaligned with human survival.
Right.
If our traditional markets fundamentally fail to fund the very foundation of modern medicine, will the next century of our most vital life-saving breakthroughs have to rely entirely on stubborn, mission-driven defiance just to survive?
Wow. It really makes you wonder what other medical miracles are sitting in a computational model right now, just waiting for the right mission to fund them.
It really does.
Until then, keep questioning the systems around you, keep looking for the outsiders trying to fix them, and keep diving deep into the forces shaping your world. Because that invisible safety net under the hospital bed, well, it only stays there if we decide it's worth fighting for.